It began as a quiet rumor, the kind that spreads through whispers and uneasy glances. No one wanted to believe it. Amelia Warner, the woman known for her grace, her music, and her quiet strength, was reportedly battling something far more terrifying than anyone could have imagined: cancer. At first, there was only silence. Jamie Dornan, usually open and charming during interviews, suddenly grew distant. His public appearances became fewer, his smiles shorter, his eyes shadowed with something heavy. When asked about Amelia, he simply said, "She's the strongest person I know." It was both a declaration of love and a plea for privacy. For years, Jamie and Amelia had been Hollywood's rare example of balance, a couple who built their life far from the chaos of fame. Their relationship wasn't about glamour, it was about grounding. They raised 3 daughters together, often retreating to the countryside to escape the noise. To the world, they looked untouchable, the picture of a calm, steady love. But beneath that peace, something fragile had begun to unravel. Friends close to them later revealed that Amelia had been feeling unwell for months. Exhaustion, dizziness, pain that wouldn't go away. At first, she thought it was stress, the result of juggling motherhood, music, and her quiet but demanding life. It wasn't until a routine checkup that the truth began to emerge. The diagnosis hit like a storm: cancer. In that moment, their world changed. Jamie, who had faced so much loss early in his life, the death of his mother when he was just 16, now found himself standing at the edge of another heartbreak. But this time, it wasn't a memory. It was happening in real time, to the woman he loved most. One source close to the couple described the scene with heartbreaking simplicity. When Amelia found out, Jamie didn't say a word. He just held her, for a long time, and then he whispered, "We'll fight this together." That sentence became their silent promise. As the news began to circulate, fans across the world expressed shock and sympathy. Amelia had always been the quiet force beside Jamie, the composer, the mother, the anchor. Now, she was facing something that no amount of fame, money, or success could shield her from. Jamie withdrew even further from the spotlight. He cancelled appearances, postponed filming, and spent most of his time at home. Insiders said he became Amelia's shadow, never leaving her side during treatment. Friends described him as a man torn between strength and fear, determined to be her protector, but terrified of what the future might hold. Meanwhile, Amelia faced the illness with quiet bravery. She continued writing music, spending time with her daughters, and avoiding pity. In one rare message to a close friend, she wrote, "I don't want people to see me as sick. I just want to live every day the way I always have, with music, love, and laughter." That was who Amelia had always been, calm in chaos, gentle but unyielding. And for Jamie, that resilience only deepened his love for her. In private, he told friends that watching her fight was both inspiring and unbearable. "You think you know strength," he once said quietly, "until you watch the person you love suffer and still smile." Those who saw them together during those early months said their bond grew stronger, even as the disease tried to tear them apart. They spent more evenings at home, away from everything, cooking simple dinners, watching old movies, and reading bedtime stories to their children. Life slowed down, not because they wanted it to, but because it had to. Still, there were moments when Jamie's composure cracked. During one charity event in London, he was asked about family. He paused, took a deep breath, and replied, "Family means everything. You realize that when you almost lose it." His voice broke slightly at the end, and for a brief second, the pain he'd been hiding became visible. Behind closed doors, Amelia's treatments continued. There were good days, when laughter filled the house again, and bad days, when the air felt heavy with fear. But through it all, Jamie stayed. Not as a movie star, not as a public figure. Just as a husband, a father, a man desperately clinging to hope. Because love, when tested by something as cruel as illness, reveals its truest form. And for Jamie Dornan, that truth was simple. No fame, no success, no role could ever compare to the one he was playing now, the role of the man who refused to let the woman he loved face her battle alone. The world didn't see the worst days, because Jamie Dornan made sure they remained private. Behind the calm interviews and red carpet smiles, his life had quietly narrowed to hospital corridors, waiting rooms, and the soft hum of medical machines. He wasn't an actor there. He was just a husband learning how to breathe through fear. Those who saw him during that time said he looked older, quieter. He kept his phone on silent, spending hours sitting beside Amelia's hospital bed, reading to her from their favorite books. Sometimes she would fall asleep mid-sentence, and he would keep reading anyway, his voice low and steady, as if words alone could keep her here a little longer. Amelia's illness had stripped away every illusion of control. Some days she was strong enough to walk in the garden, other days she barely had the energy to lift her head. Yet through it all, she smiled, for him, for their children, for herself. Her courage became the heartbeat of their home. And Jamie, who had once been terrified of losing his mother to cancer, found himself reliving the same nightmare. Only this time, he refused to surrender to grief. In a rare public appearance months later, Jamie was asked about love, a harmless question on a late-night talk show that suddenly became something deeper. He paused for a long moment before answering, his voice low and unsteady. Love isn't about the good days. It's about the ones where you're terrified, but you show up anyway. The audience fell silent. For the first time, people saw not the confident leading man, but the husband clinging to faith. Those close to him said he'd written a letter to Amelia the night before her surgery, a letter she kept by her bedside, folded and worn at the edges. In it, he wrote, "If my love could heal you, you'd never feel pain again." Weeks passed. Treatments continued. The family shielded themselves from the press, choosing privacy over publicity. Yet rumors began to circulate, that Amelia's condition had worsened, that Jamie had taken a break from acting to be with her full-time. Whether true or not, the silence spoke volumes. Then, one cold afternoon, Jamie attended a charity event for cancer research. Reporters expected the usual smiles and photo ops. Instead, they witnessed a moment that would later become one of the most emotional clips ever shared online. When the host mentioned Amelia's name, Jamie lowered his gaze, his voice trembling. "She's the reason I'm here. The reason I believe in hope. If this is her fight, then it's mine too." The room erupted in applause, but his eyes glistened. That was when fans understood. The final goodbye wasn't about death. It was about acceptance, about learning to live with uncertainty. Amelia's battle had changed him. He no longer cared for fame, roles, or red carpets. What mattered were the moments that never made headlines. Morning hugs with his daughters, coffee shared in silence, the fragile laughter that somehow survived between hospital visits. In one of her final public notes to fans, Amelia wrote, "Illness teaches you what love truly means. It's not about perfection, it's about presence." Her words mirrored Jamie's soul. They had become two people stripped of everything except truth. Eventually, as her health began to stabilize, even if only slightly, Jamie opened up in an interview that many described as the most emotional of his career. He spoke softly, hands clasped, choosing his words with care. "You realize that love isn't forever in the way we imagine it. It's forever in the way it changes you. Amelia has changed me, in every way possible." He talked about fear, about faith, about the nights when he prayed not for miracles, but for peace. And as the interviewer asked what he would say to Amelia if she were watching, Jamie's composure finally broke. "Just, thank you," he whispered, his voice cracking, "for teaching me that even in pain, there can be beauty. And even when you're scared, you can still choose love." That clip went viral within hours. Fans across the world left thousands of comments, words of empathy, prayers, and gratitude. They weren't just watching a celebrity story, they were witnessing a human one. As of now, Amelia continues her treatment privately, surrounded by her family. Jamie rarely speaks about the illness anymore, but his actions say enough. He walks slower, listens more, smiles differently. There's a depth in his eyes that only those who've loved through suffering can understand. Whether Amelia wins this battle or not, Jamie's words remain etched in the hearts of millions. Love doesn't end when life changes. It only grows quieter, deeper, and more sacred. Their journey is not defined by illness, but by devotion. By two people who refused to let fear erase tenderness. By a man who learned that true strength isn't about never breaking, it's about breaking open and still choosing to love. And so, as the world watches with quiet hope, Jamie Dornan continues to hold Amelia's hand, not knowing what tomorrow brings, but knowing that whatever it is, they will face it together. Because sometimes, love's final goodbye isn't about letting go. It's about promising to hold on, until the very last breath.